Hello folks, this is Jamil Sir for Gunstock Reviews. We're here in Phoenix, Arizona at the world headquarters of Enlo Custom Guns with Marty. How you doing, bud?
Good.
A few weeks ago, I installed the new Springfield Armory Optics Ready slide, which they now sell in several versions, by the way. In the video, I actually spoke of 3 versions, but it's actually 4 versions that came out after we did the video.
Okay.
And they have it with the slide by itself, the slide with barrel assembly, and the slide by itself with a red dot on it, and then one with a slide assembly. And they have different inserts for you to use different red dots.
Okay.
I happen to have a Bushnell red dot here that fits the assembly they sent, which is for the Delta Point. But I originally put it on my customized Springer Precision competition gun, and then I said, wait a minute, I just spent money putting a Wilson Combat sight set on it with gold beads on it. So I didn't want to do that, so what else but get another gun, okay?
Yeah.
So quickly, we're not going to change we already showed how to change the upper.
Okay.
It's not a big deal. But what I want you to do is take the upper, the insert, and the red dot, and the screws, and let's go ahead and install the red dot on it.
The red dot.
And then just go ahead and do the swap over, and then we'll be left with a brand spanking new unused slide. But it's kind of cool. They don't sell the pistol now, the XD, with the new slide. You have to buy the pistol and the new slide. But give them time, and they will. But this is a great upgrade, specifically for those people that buy the gun with a barrel assembly and they have a 40, and they don't want to shoot 40 anymore. So they just buy the 9mm setup, boom, and you're good to go.
Okay.
So I know, you and I were talking about 40. It's not a bad caliber.
No.
It's not going to disappear.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't like the snappy recoil, the less capacity, and all that. And I give them credit. Look, the only 40 pistol I have is a Smith & Wesson 4006. Remember those? I got one of those and a bunch of parts.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, one of these days we'll do a show on the 3rd generation Smith & Wesson pistols and talk about how difficult they are to take apart.
Sure, okay.
You know, yeah, I've done it. I learned from one of the gunsmiths at Smith & Wesson, and you need to be bred with 3 arms to put that thing together. Is a pain in the ass. But yeah, they're very complicated.
I've worked on them in the past. I mean, I'm familiar. It's
but they're not as easy to work as a Glock.
No, but there's plenty of other guns that are a lot more complicated
like
as well.
HKs?
The HKs aren't terrible. You know, if we want to go into the most obscure gun that I've ever had to work on, we could say the Browning BDA.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that one's tremendously difficult to.
Okay.
So
so you beat me with that one. We're going to put this one away. We're not going to mess with it. I just wanted to explain why I went with the new pistol, and I didn't. There's so much goodies put in here. There's a bunch of new parts in it, and of course the sight system just cost me over $100 for those sights. Yeah. So no. So let's go ahead and do this, and then we'll swap the upper. So here's all the parts that comes with it. The kit comes, the slide comes with the cover, and 3 screws, and of course there is the screws that attach the adapter to the slide, and of course the screws that adapt the red dot to the adapter. So
there we go. I've kind of pre-loosened this plate a little bit, but we would just like disassemble the plate here. There's 3 screws holding this on, right?
And I will save these screws because I'm the kind of guy that saves everything.
Well, wait a second, and don't walk off of those just yet.
Okay, I'm going to put them here.
Well, because you'll notice that we have 2 screws here, but we actually have 3 holes. And yeah, you're right. This thing's a little oily, which is fine. We got Q-tips and denatured alcohol. We'll just clean this off a little bit. So, yeah, okay, that's the extractor. So, one of the things is, like in the past, we used to machine out a lot of these things, and we would machine off the top of the slides, and you would cut off like recesses. Well, that becomes a problem with some of these guns here, where okay, there's stuff on the back side that needs to be there in order to function. Like the XD has a raised pin. It has a loaded chamber indicator that has to work back and forth, and these are all things that you know, that used to be taken into account. And it's kind of a nice thing that now factories are starting to offer these mount plates and a few other things. So yes, I do need one of those screws here, but because you only gave me 2.
Oh, okay.
But that's fine.
You want to clean up one of them?
Yeah, we'll clean them up, but we'll get them cleaned in some alcohol.
And then we'll put some red Loctite or blue.
Yeah, blue Loctite. So a little bit of blue Loctite, just a drop, nothing too gnarly here.
Yeah, I know that we talked about this before, the proper amount of Loctite to put in, not to overdo it, because if you ever want to take it out, you decide you want to get a different red dot in there, you're going to have a real hard time taking that.
Well, I mean, yeah, I suppose Loctite's Loctite. I mean, if you have a ton in there, it's not the end of the world. What is a problem, though, is if there's a hole, we'll say that Loctite seeps down into, and now you have a part that locks up.
Okay.
That's a bigger problem than having a big amount of Loctite that kind of gets pushed out. It's just the fact that it'll creep, it'll seep somewhere. And you know, if Loctite doesn't have pressure or friction on it, it doesn't really solidify, right? Okay, if you get heat on it, right? If you get heat on it, it'll solidify. If you get pressure on it, it'll solidify, right? That little bit of friction is what helps it solidify. If it runs somewhere and then kind of dries out, and it just so happened to run right in your firing pin, or in the case of Glocks where there's like a hole that goes through here, right, and they get locked up. So that, and another thing is that you know, this is nice because these are pre-cut screws. I mean, obviously, hopefully we aren't going to have to. In fact, we probably are going to have to trim these a little bit, because you know, this is a Bushnell sight, you said?
Yeah, this is a Bushnell.
So we'll have to check that actually, but you know, actually, we'll pull this off here real quick. And the reason why we want to check this is we want to make sure that our screws
are not too long.
Because that will cause a mount issue here. Let's see here.
That's a good point, yeah, because we had one mount some time ago that you and I mounted, and the screws were way too long for it. So.
And you're saying that this sight is kind of set up for a delta point.
That plate that they included was set up for delta point, yes. And but they sell RMR mounts, and they're not that expensive.
And that looks like it's going to be just flush. So I mean, that's at least worthwhile to check.
Yeah. Show it to the camera so that viewers can see what you're talking about.
Right. I want to just make sure we tighten this down just so I know for certain. But just kind of checking that. These 2 screws here, right? These 2 screws, you're going to see where I'm pointing the punch, or the bit. They are just below flush with the surface, which is exactly what you would want. It is possible that you could have the screws protrude, in which case, if you're tightening it down on here, then it's going to tilt the sight. And if you tilt the sight, it's not going to mount properly, it's going to shake, it's going to wiggle, it's all things.
And something's going to break eventually.
Yeah, so we don't want that to happen, and so that was you know, kind of a mistake on our part, but you know, that's one of the reasons why we thought of it. So, I mean, hopefully...
Well, part of gunsmithing is fixing the mistakes that you can make.
Yeah, and there's lots that can happen. So, but anyway, we still have Loctite on the screws, in which case what made it down in there, so I don't really need to reapply.
That's a good point. Yeah, don't overdo it.
And these are taper head screws too. So taper head screws typically don't have a tendency to back out as much. In fact, they have a tendency to lock in there a little better. But you know, that's just something that I've noticed through what I've run into, where it's like, okay, they have a tendency to kind of wedge in the holes a little bit, or pretty good. But they're also good for lining. But once again, kind of coming in, just doing a little tightening, and there we go there. And now we will mount our sight, and once again, looks like you already had a little bit of Loctite on here, but I'm going to just put a smidge more on there. Highly technical term there, smidge.
Oh, absolutely. And I really like that Bushnell red dot is pretty cool. Is sturdy. We used it before on a show a couple of years ago, but of course, like when we have red dots, we swap them around pistols or rifles or whatever. They come in with a Picatinny rail, but you know it's an accessory that comes with it. But you know here we don't need it. So, and then what I did is I did trim this cover to fit the
rear sight here.
The rear sight. That wasn't a different gun. It wasn't a different pistol before, so I trimmed it a little bit. It doesn't look pretty, but it does a job.
Okay, so there's your old plates, rubber mounts, and we'll grab the XD here. Oh, wow. There we go. There we go. There you go.
Thank you, sir. This is great. Now we have a spare slide that we got to do something with it. We'll figure something to do with it soon. But yeah, let me see how it feels. It's great. Like we just said before, you still can't co-witness with this specific red dot, but this is a pretty tall and thick red dot. Depends on which red dot you have. You know, you're gonna.
Those are pretty tall sights too. But if indeed you did end up with some sights that would fit, or at least another red dot, you should easily be able to co-witness those sights there.
No problem. We'll take this to the range and see how it shoots. Thanks, Marty. Appreciate your help. And like always, guys, please remain healthy, stay safe, and have fun at the range.
Thank you for watching Gunstock Reviews. Please visit our website at www.gunstockreviews.com for more exclusive content. Please visit our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/gunstockreviews. Your contributions would be greatly appreciated and help us grow our selections and frequency of videos.